3 in the morning, phone in your hand, thumb hovering over his name. You've typed the message 4 times, deleted it 4 times, and somewhere underneath all that typing and deleting, a small voice is asking you a question you don't want to answer. Why am I still fighting for someone who already let go of the rope? If you're watching this right now because he walked away, and every cell in your body is screaming at you to reach out, to explain yourself one more time, to fix whatever broke, to just get one more conversation so the ache in your chest will stop for 5 minutes. I need you to stay with me for the next 30 minutes, because what I'm about to tell you is going to feel uncomfortable at first. And then it's going to feel like the truest thing anyone has ever said to you. You are not weak for wanting to chase him. You are human. But chasing is not going to bring him back. And even if it did, it wouldn't bring back the version of him you fell in love with. There is a very specific reason why chasing fails almost every single time. And once you understand that reason, you will never look at heartbreak the same way again. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are not going to want to chase him anymore. You are going to want something bigger, something that actually works, something that changes not just this relationship, but every relationship you will ever have for the rest of your life. Let's begin. Right now, your mind is probably replaying the relationship on a loop. The good morning texts, the way he used to look at you across a room, the inside jokes nobody else would understand. And then, right next to that highlight reel, your mind is playing the horror movie version, the silence, the last conversation, the way he looked when he said it was over, or worse, the way he just disappeared without saying anything at all. This is what heartbreak does. It doesn't let you feel one thing. It makes you feel everything, all at once, in waves that come out of nowhere. You'll be fine for an hour, folding laundry, answering emails, and then a song comes on, or you see a couple laughing in a coffee shop, and suddenly you're back on the bathroom floor, mascara running, chest tight, wondering how a person can just stop loving you like flipping off a light switch. You check his social media. You tell yourself you won't, and then you do anyway. You analyze his last online status like it's a coded message meant just for you. You wonder if the girl in his friend's photo means something. You reread old messages, searching for the exact sentence where it all went wrong, as if finding that sentence will somehow undo it. You've probably asked your friends the same question in 5 different ways, hoping one of them will finally give you the answer that makes the pain stop. Do you think he still thinks about me? Do you think I should text him? Do you think there's still a chance? And your friends, bless them, either tell you what you want to hear, or they tell you the truth. And either way, it doesn't actually touch the wound. Here's the part nobody talks about enough. The hardest part of this isn't missing him. It's missing who you were when you were with him. The version of you that felt chosen. The version of you that felt safe enough to be silly, to be soft, to stop performing and just exist. When he left, it didn't just take him away. It took away a mirror you had gotten used to looking into. A mirror that reflected back a woman who was wanted. And without that mirror, you're standing in front of yourself for the first time in a long time. And it's terrifying because you're not sure what you'll see. So the panic sets in. And panic has one instinct: close the distance, send the text, make the call, show up, explain, apologize, even if you did nothing wrong, anything to make the gap smaller, because the gap feels like it's going to swallow you whole. I understand that instinct completely, but I need you to understand something about it too. That instinct is not wisdom. It's a nervous system in survival mode mistaking emotional distance for physical danger, and trying to solve a heart problem with a fight or flight solution. And that brings us to the truth that is going to reframe everything you thought you knew about heartbreak. Here it is. The problem was never that he left. The problem is that you stayed emotionally in a place he already walked out of. Read that again, because it changes everything. When someone leaves a relationship, there are actually two departures, not one. There's the physical departure, the breakup conversation, the moving out, the blocked number, whatever form it took for you. And then there's the emotional departure, which almost always happens before the physical one. By the time he said the words, or by the time he stopped replying, some part of him had already checked out days, weeks, sometimes months earlier. Most women don't get to see that first departure happening in real time. You only feel the aftershock of it. So when the physical ending finally arrives, it feels sudden to you, even though it wasn't sudden to him. And because it feels sudden, your mind refuses to accept it as final. Your mind says, this doesn't make sense. There must be a way to undo this. And that belief is exactly what keeps you chasing. But here's the reframe. You are not actually trying to win him back. You are trying to close a door that emotionally closed a long time ago from the other side. And no amount of knocking on a door that's already closed and locked from within is going to open it. All that knocking does is exhaust you. And worse, it teaches the person on the other side that you will keep knocking no matter how they treat you. This single truth is the center of everything I'm going to teach you today. Chasing him doesn't fail because you're not lovable enough, or not pretty enough, or didn't say the right words. Chasing him fails because you are trying to solve an emotional problem, his emotional withdrawal, using a physical action. Contact. And emotional problems are never solved by physical proximity. They are solved by emotional value. And the moment you start chasing, you actually destroy the one thing that could have rebuilt that value, your own sense of self-worth. So if chasing isn't the answer, what is? Let's walk through it piece by piece, because I'm going to give you 5 things to do instead. And each one is going to rebuild something inside you that heartbreak tried to take. The first lesson is this: silence is not weakness, it's information warfare, and you're the one who benefits from it. When a relationship ends, the person who reaches out first after a period of silence is psychologically the person who reveals their hand. Think about 2 business partners negotiating a deal that fell apart. The one who calls first, panicked, asking to renegotiate, immediately signals that they need the deal more than the other side does. And in any negotiation, whoever needs it more loses leverage. This isn't cold or manipulative to say. It's simply how human psychology works, whether we're talking about business or love. When you go silent, not out of spite, but out of self-respect, you create space. And space does something remarkable. It removes the immediate resolution he might have expected, and it forces him to sit with the actual weight of the absence instead of the comfortable buffer of your constant reassurance. There's a woman I'll call Mira. Mira dated a man for 2 years who eventually pulled away slowly, the way ice melts before you notice the puddle. When he finally ended things, Mira did what most of us do. She texted him nearly every day for 3 weeks. Good morning messages, long paragraphs explaining her feelings, questions about what she did wrong. And every single message pushed him further into the emotional exit he had already made. Then, on the advice of a friend, Mira did something different. She stopped. Completely. No texts, no likes on his photos, no showing up at places she knew he'd be. 6 weeks of true silence. And here's what happened. Around week 4, he texted her. Not because she performed some clever trick, but because for the first time since the breakup, he had room to actually miss her, instead of being flooded by her presence and her pain. Now here's the important twist, and I need you to really hear this part. Mira's story isn't a formula that guarantees he comes back. Some men don't come back at all, and that has to be okay too. The point of silence was never use it as bait to reel him in. The point of silence is that it is the only environment in which real feelings, his and yours, can surface without noise. Silence isn't a trick. It's truth serum. Think of it like a storm passing over the ocean. While the storm rages, the water is chaotic and you can't see anything beneath the surface. It's only after the storm passes and the water goes still that you can actually see what's down there clearly without distortion. Constant contact after a breakup is the storm. It keeps everything churned up, chaotic, unreadable. Silence is what lets the water go still, so that whatever is real, on his side and on yours, finally becomes visible. Here's your emotional insight for this section, and I want it to land somewhere deep. You don't need him to miss you. You need to become someone worth missing again, in your own eyes first. The second lesson is about rebuilding what heartbreak tried to steal: your identity outside of him. When we love someone deeply, we do something dangerous without realizing it. We let a huge portion of our sense of self get stored inside that relationship. Your mornings started to revolve around his good morning text. Your weekends started to revolve around his schedule. Your confidence started to revolve around whether he approved of your choices. This isn't a flaw in you. It's what humans do when they attach, but it becomes a trap the moment the relationship ends, because suddenly the storage unit holding your identity is gone and you feel like you've lost yourself, not just him. Think about a tree in a storm. A tree with shallow roots gets torn straight out of the ground. A tree with deep roots bends, sways violently, loses branches, maybe even loses half its leaves, but it stays standing because its root system doesn't depend on calm weather. The women who survive breakups and come out stronger are not the ones who felt less pain. They are the ones who had already begun growing roots outside the relationship. Friendships, passions, a sense of purpose, a relationship with themselves long before the storm hit. Or who start growing those roots urgently the moment the storm arrives. I want you to think of a woman named Farah. After her 4-year relationship ended, Farah realized with horror that she couldn't actually name 3 things she loved doing that had nothing to do with him. Her hobbies had quietly become his hobbies. Her friend group had quietly become his friend group. Her Saturday nights had quietly become whatever he wanted to do on Saturday nights. So Farah did something that felt almost silly at first. She made a list of things she used to love before the relationship: painting, hiking, a book club she'd abandoned 2 years earlier, and she forced herself through the pain, through the days she didn't want to get out of bed, to do one small thing from that list every single day. Not because it fixed the heartbreak. It didn't, not at first. But because every single time she painted or hiked or sat in that book club feeling awkward and out of practice, she was quietly telling her nervous system, I exist outside of him. I am not only the woman he left. I am a whole person having an experience. This is the actionable transformation hiding inside the pain. Heartbreak, as brutal as it is, hands you an involuntary opportunity to rebuild an identity that isn't outsourced to another person. Most people waste that opportunity by spending it entirely on trying to get the old relationship back. The women who come out of heartbreak transformed are the ones who spend that same energy building a self so solid that being chosen becomes a bonus, not a requirement for feeling whole. And here is your quote-worthy line for this section. Confidence isn't built when someone chooses you. It's built when you choose yourself, especially on the days no one else does. The third lesson is about understanding what actually attracts people back. And I want to be very clear here because this is where a lot of advice online gets dangerously twisted. I am not telling you to become silent and busy as a strategy to manipulate him into missing you and crawling back. If that's the only reason you're doing any of this, you are still chasing. You've just disguised the chase as stillness. The real shift has to happen on the inside, not just in your behavior. Here's the psychological truth. People are not drawn to those who need them. People are drawn to those who have an undeniable sense of their own value, with or without them. This isn't about playing games. It's about biology and psychology working exactly the way they're designed to work. When you beg, plead, over-explain, and repeatedly reach out after being met with silence or rejection, you are signaling unintentionally, my sense of worth depends on your response. And nothing shuts down attraction faster than that signal, because it removes all mystery, all challenge, and worst of all, it removes your autonomy. You stop looking like a whole person and start looking like an extension of his decision. Think of gardening for a moment. Anyone who has grown a plant knows this rule instinctively. Overwatering kills more plants than underwatering does. You'd think more water equals more life, more love, more attention equals more connection. But plants, like people, need periods of dryness to grow strong roots that search downward for stability, instead of relying on a constant flood from above. When you chase, text, over-explain, and over-give after a breakup, you are flooding a relationship that needs dryness to figure out what it actually wants and needs. You are drowning the very thing you're trying to save. There's a man I'll call Daniel, who dated a woman named Zara for over a year. When Zara pulled back, not out of manipulation, but because she genuinely needed space to grieve and rebuild, Daniel admitted to a friend months later that her sudden absence was the first time in the entire relationship he had to actually confront how much he valued her, instead of assuming she'd always be there absorbing whatever effort or lack of effort he offered. Her silence didn't manipulate him. It simply removed the flood of reassurance he had grown comfortable ignoring. And that absence let him see clearly, maybe for the first time, what he actually stood to lose. I want to say this gently but firmly. Sometimes, even with all of this space and self-respect and inner rebuilding, he still won't come back. And that has to be okay, because the goal was never solely to get him back. The goal is to become a woman whose life, whose peace, and whose worth are no longer hostages to someone else's choice. The fourth lesson is about grief. And I want to slow down here because this is the part most videos skip entirely. You are allowed to grieve this. Not just the relationship, the future you had quietly built in your mind, the wedding you maybe pictured, the inside jokes you thought you'd be telling for the next 50 years, the version of him you fell in love with, who may or may not be the version who actually left. Grief for a breakup is not smaller than grief for a death. It's a death. The death of a shared future, of a certain version of yourself, of a story you believed you were living inside. Think of an iceberg for a moment. What you see on the surface of grief, the crying, the sadness, the missing him, is only 10% of what's actually happening. Underneath the water is a massive structure of fear. Fear that you're unlovable. Fear that you'll never find this again. Fear that something is fundamentally wrong with you. Fear of being alone at 30 or 40 or whatever age feels frightening to you right now. Chasing him is often not really about him at all. It's an attempt to make that underwater iceberg of fear disappear by fixing the visible 10% on the surface. But here's the insight that changes everything. You cannot chase away fear. You can only build enough safety within yourself that the fear no longer runs the show. And that safety doesn't come from him returning. It comes from proving to yourself day after day that you can survive this, that you can sit with the discomfort without immediately grabbing for relief, and that you are, in fact, still standing. Let the grief happen. Cry in the shower. Write him letters you never send. Scream into a pillow if you need to. Grief that is expressed moves through you. Grief that is suppressed gets stored in your body and shows up later as anxiety or numbness or a strange emptiness you can't quite explain. The women who heal fastest are not the ones who avoid the pain. They're the ones who let it move through them like weather, instead of building a house around it and living there permanently. The fifth lesson, and this one ties everything together: rewrite the story you're telling yourself about what happened. Right now, the story in your head is probably something like, he left me, therefore I wasn't enough. That single sentence is doing enormous damage quietly. Every single day it goes unchallenged. It's shaping how you see every future relationship, every mirror you look into, every message you almost send at 3 a.m. Here is a more accurate story, and I want you to actually sit with this one. He left, and that means the relationship as it existed was not sustainable for one or both of you, for reasons that may have nothing to do with your worth, and everything to do with timing, compatibility, unresolved wounds he was carrying, or a mismatch in what you each needed. His leaving is information about the relationship. It is not a verdict on your value as a human being. Think about a mountain climber who turns back 50 meters from the summit because a storm rolls in. That climber didn't fail as a climber. The conditions weren't right for that particular attempt on that particular day. A wise climber doesn't conclude, I am incapable of climbing mountains. They study the storm, they learn from it, and they prepare for the next one. On a clearer day, maybe on a different mountain entirely. Your relationship was an attempt at a summit. It didn't reach the top this time. That is not proof that you are incapable of a lasting, deeply loving relationship. It's proof that this particular attempt with this particular person under these particular conditions didn't make it. That's all. Nothing more and nothing less. So let's bring this together into something you can actually do, starting today, starting this hour if you need to. First, go silent, not as a manipulation tactic, but as an act of self-respect. Give yourself at minimum a clean 30 to 60 days of zero contact. No texting, no checking his profile, no accidentally liking an old photo. Use that silence to let the water go still. Second, make a list of who you were before this relationship and start doing one small thing from that list every day, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Third, catch yourself the moment you start over-explaining or seeking reassurance from anyone about whether he'll come back, and redirect that energy into a single question instead. What would the strongest version of me do right now? Not the version who wins him back, the version who respects herself no matter what he decides. Fourth, let yourself grieve completely, on your own terms, in whatever form that grief takes, without judging yourself for how long it's taking or how messy it looks from the outside. Fifth, rewrite the sentence in your head. Replace "he left, so I wasn't enough" with "he left, and that is information about compatibility and timing, not a verdict on my worth." Do these 5 things and something remarkable happens. Whether or not he ever comes back, and I need you to hear this clearly, that outcome is not something you can control, and it was never really the goal. You will come out of this heartbreak as a fundamentally different woman than the one who went into it. Steadier, clearer, less afraid of being alone, because you'll have proven to yourself that you can survive being alone and still be whole. And here's the truth, that heartbreak in its cruelty is actually trying to teach you. The love you were so desperately trying to chase from him is available right now from yourself, not as a consolation prize, as the real thing. The love that doesn't leave when things get hard. The love that doesn't require you to perform or shrink or beg. The love that simply chooses you every single morning, regardless of what anyone else decides. You didn't lose him and lose everything. You lost him and you got the chance to find yourself. That is not a smaller story. That is the bigger one. So tonight, when your thumb hovers over his name at 3 a.m, I want you to remember this video. I want you to remember that the door didn't close because you weren't enough. It closed because that particular story had reached its final page. And you, this whole, capable, worthy woman standing in the wreckage of it, you get to write the next one. If this video reached you exactly when you needed it, do one thing for me before you go. Subscribe so more of this finds you on the nights you need it most. Give this a like if even one sentence in here felt like it was written just for you. And I want to know, down in the comments, tell me, what is one thing you are choosing to do for yourself today instead of chasing someone who already let go? I read every single comment, and I promise you, you are not alone in this. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.